What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspirations podcast, and today I have a lovely guest named Jake. Jake is the founder of 6 online multi-millionaire businesses, and he has a lot of success with entrepreneurship. And I'm so glad that he's given us the time to teach us about entrepreneurship and his journey. So, if this is the podcast, if you're looking to gain wealth and learn about business, this is the podcast to watch. So, Jay, can you do yourself for just briefly introducing who you are, and also just talking about how did you accomplish so many successful businesses at such a young age?
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. I've been doing this. I don't feel I'm 28 currently, almost 29. I don't feel 28. I feel like I'm 55 some days.
Yeah.
But I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. I started in college. I was 19 years old and was really just like, hey, I don't see myself going into the corporate world, and pivoted and was like, I'm going to start my own business and we're going to see how it goes. I was in school for engineering, so I had got into prototyping, and that was my first business. I realized very quickly you can start a business, but you don't just, get a bunch of customers coming in your door. So I learned marketing, and then from learning marketing, I was like, wow, I could do this stuff for other people. And that led me into the whole world of starting marketing companies, advertising, lead generation, SEO, all that stuff, and has really, led to me, at this point in time, having a few different successful businesses. Again, the way you say it sounds a lot better. The way I say it is like, it's great. They're doing well, but we've had a lot of successes and a lot of failures. That as well. So
I mean, and I know for every successful business, you must have had a lot of failures, and I definitely want to talk about those. I'm actually interested in the failures and what that looks like, because for me, I feel like those failed experiences is what discouraged many people from pursuing and continuing and essentially quitting. So from you, I'm just curious, for every successful business you've created, how many would you say attempts you failed? Because I know a common thing is that most successful entrepreneurs are constantly just shooting and doing a bunch of different things, and no one hears about those failures. Everyone's just like, oh, they just pay attention to the ones doing well.
Yeah, no, I love to touch on that. So to answer your question, man, I don't know. I bet it's in the 40s of different. Yeah, now I will say this: like sometimes we'll launch a business. Yeah. We have an offer, and then we'll be like, okay, we need to change up the offer completely, change the website, or we keep the name. But like as far as different offers, different times we've like launched 40 times, 50 times, because again, a lot of times when we're starting off, and we even just did this in one of our businesses, you might start with something and get a little bit of traction, and then when you start to scale and get all these customers, it just doesn't work, and then you need to change. So. Yeah, I mean, right from the jump, and starting a business again, probably had 40 to 50, and again, we've had at this time, I know it was 6, but 7 that have been successful, that have stuck. So it's definitely kind of a trial and error type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people can't say that they generated so many multi-million-dollar businesses like you. What would you say is like the most successful one that you created? And can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so that business came about 4 to 5 years into my journey into being self-employed and starting businesses, and it was a marketing company for real estate agents. And when I tell you everything clicked, that's what happened. I was working with an individual for about a year and a half at that point, and he was the salesperson, I was the back end guy, and we were doing marketing for real estate agents, and it was done for you. And I'll tell you why that matters in a second.
Yeah.
We were doing done for you, like we're gonna run your ads, we're gonna book you appointments. And that's what it was. That's what we're giving them. And we got to a point where COVID was also, kind of sparking up a little bit. And we realized like these clients would get success and then something would go wrong and they would just leave. And it was like, we can't retain these people. Now, obviously, COVID didn't help. So we transitioned away from this done for you product where it was a monthly payment into a done with you product, which was, hey, we're going to set you up the system. It was the exact system that we, had that was working for our clients. And it was basically, hey, we're going to set you this up. It's a one-time fee. Pay us for the software on the back end. I don't know if you're familiar with Go
Mm.
High Level. And that allowed us to scale. Now, grand scheme of things, it was a great offer at a great time. The real estate market was doing well as well. And this high level thing, which was a white label software, was just starting to take off. A lot of people didn't have it yet. So it was just a really good offer that was something super unique. And that allowed us to just scale super quickly. We went into mortgage as well with that company. And that was the one that we topped out at almost $1.1 million a month. So
Wow.
that was the coolest one. Now, obviously, that's not all profit, too. That's a cool number to say, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
profit margins are 10 to 20% on that. But again, it was still that was our biggest month, and that was definitely our biggest win for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with that business in particular, you're helping real estate agents, and it sounds like, I'm curious, were you how how long did it take for you to get to that level of success? Because it seems like everything was done online. Was it relatively? What was that process like? You know?
Yeah. So everything was, we've always done everything online ever since I got into marketing. And what happened was, I had got into, first starting off with, a specific partner. We tried to start a marketing agency, didn't work. And then through networking and other failures, I found this specific individual. And it was about a year and a half to that point. Now, again, we were comfortable working with clients. We had some systems in place. But from that point of like, okay, we changed our offer to actually scaling was about 12 months of going from right around 20 to $30,000 a month, which it was just me and him, to
Hmm.
scaling to those crazy numbers. So it
Wow.
it took a little bit. Like obviously, it didn't just overnight take off,
Okay.
but really consistently month over month over month, increasing the amount we were doing.
So
But
is
took
that
a minute.
business still running now, Jake, or is it just done and about done?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And that from now until then, there's been a lot that's happened.
Yeah.
We got to a point where in that business, we were doing again $1 million months. The next month, very similar. And after a few months, it got to a point where we heard our customers complaining about our support team. And we're like, what's going on? Well, our support team was actually outsourced because,
Oh.
for us to be able to scale, we needed a partner. So at that
Yeah.
time, that other company was taking care of support. They were doing fulfillment and they were handling all of our marketing. So just all the deliverables after we signed somebody up, they were taking care of. And they were hiding stuff from us, bottom line. So
Oh,
we
wow.
started hearing from our customers like, hey, you guys aren't responding, yada, yada, yada. And, reputation starts to tank.
Sure.
And, we scaled down, we started losing money. And it took us about 8 months to go from completely outsourced to in-house. But at that point, the damage was done. So we started rebuilding. We started, looking at, how can we make our brand better? And we built it back up. Realized too, this is, kind of important. I talked about the real estate market. Now, on the flip side, the real estate market isn't doing as good. So we still had
Yeah.
a little bit of a business. Again, it was going good, but we realized like, okay, we needed to diversify. So we went
Mm.
into the mortgage industry, or excuse me, not mortgage. We went into insurance. We went into home services. We went into health and wellness. And instead of like just scaling to the biggest, building in the city, we said we're going to scale horizontally, and we're going to have multiple little different businesses. And that's what we've basically done at that point. And that's how we've been able to have, multiple different, entities instead of one big one. And, with us doing that, it's been more secure and more of a consistent gradual increase instead of just like shooting up to the moon and then obviously
Yeah.
crashing back down.
Yeah. So at that time when your business started to slow down in terms of growth, was that around like 2023, 2024? I'm asking because that was I felt like that was when the real estate market, or 2022 around there. I feel like that was when the real estate market started to decelerate. Or when did you experience that deceleration of growth?
Yeah, it was that 2022 mark
Yeah,
where we started to feel it. It was harder to sell people. Obviously, reputation doesn't help, but it was still like, why are people still booking appointments with us? They're just not closing, or there's,
yeah,
it's harder, and that
yeah,
absolutely played a role. I can't blame that support company,
for
for
sure.
everything, because market absolutely does play a role, and that is why we diversified after
Yeah.
that all went down.
Yeah, no, I mean that's so interesting, man. I mean, hearing you talk, it's interesting. I guess for you, it seems like the biggest change that really seemed to accelerate it was going from selling like services to like the software or the system that does the work instead of like you being in that saved you a lot of time and gave you the leverage to really just, I guess, scale everything, right?
Yeah. So what I will say is it all comes down to the industry. Because I definitely am a part of some companies where we do a monthly fee, and we take care of them. It's a done for you service. But the biggest thing is looking at the industry and then what you're going to give to that industry, because real estate agents at the time we brought that offer to market, they were so tired of, everybody charging 500, 1,000, $2,000 a month. So
Yeah.
when we're able to say, hey, instead of paying them $2,000 a month, pay us $2,000 once, and we're going to give you a system for life,
Mm,
then it's like, okay, like, yeah, no brainer. We're going to work with you guys. So
gotcha.
I think when you're talking about like putting an offer together, it's you either take what everybody else does and put a spin on it,
Mm.
or you have to, sell something that's just completely new. And we went the route of putting a spin on something that everybody else was,
That's
everybody was selling.
That's interesting. So you were already pretty much doing what was working, but you just made a better offer than your competition, and that essentially was able to help you get a lot of leads. I mean, a lot of success. Like so, and you're a marketing and real estate agent. Funny enough, I'm actually one myself, but
Love
I'm
it.
very, very, very
Love it.
inactive,
Yeah.
bro. But I do know, like, as a real estate agent, one of the reasons why I didn't really feel compelled was the lead generation process of actually having to find people. It sounds like that's the problem that your business was solving, like actually like helping real estate agents get clients so they too can make money, right?
Yeah, it's both. It absolutely is both. I talk about us, having an issue with our leads, but then it's absolutely, if we're not getting results for people, they're getting their money back, because, we have a specific promise of performance. So absolutely, it's not viable for us either if we're not, able to actually help that client out. So that's also absolutely another big part of it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, man. So I mean, this is interesting. And so from there, you've gone on. I mean, it seems like with all the business expertise and knowledge you've developed a skill set of building a business and launching them. I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Jake, because I'm currently going through this process, and I want to like pick your brain and know, like, when you're say hypothetically you're about to start a new business, like, what are you thinking about? What are you launch? Like, what's your mindset?
I
Like, what's
love
the
that.
first thing
Yeah.
I'm gonna do? Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? What are you thinking about?
I love that. Yeah. Nobody's ever asked me that, but
Uh,
that's what gets me up in the morning.
yeah, yeah,
It's
man.
it's absolutely, it comes down to opportunity and offer. So I'll break that down. Opportunity is like,
Opportunity.
obviously we got to have a market of individuals that are actually going to buy whatever we're selling. So
Yeah.
again, there's opportunity everywhere, but I'll give you an example. We just launched a new offer on a business that was already, out there and producing, but we needed to change the offer to make it work. And we saw an opportunity to work with chiropractors. Now, obviously that's not revolutionary by any
Yeah.
means, but the offer, the cool offer that we're giving to them now is, we're saying, hey, we used to do SEO. So it's like, we'll rank your website. We said, hey, chiropractors, what do they want? They don't want to do ads. They don't want to make content. They don't want to dance on TikTok. They want to be a local celebrity. So we said, hey, we're going to do the SEO for you. We're going to get you a bunch of reviews, but we're going to take it a step further. After we rank you, we're going to get you TV news interviews. We're going to get you on podcasts. We're going to get you this local publicity. And then we're going to build you a referral network. And all of that combined is going to make you this local celebrity. And what I'm getting at is it's a cool offer with a bunch of opportunity in a cool industry that
Mm.
it's not something they've seen before. So it doesn't, if somebody comes to me and was like, hey, I can do Facebook ads, like, let's start a business, I'm going to be like, well, my neighbor does Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Like, everybody does it. But
Yeah.
getting chiropractors booked on podcasts and TV shows and, local interviews and stuff like that, speaking gigs, like, that's something nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
So it's like bringing a new offer to a market with opportunity. That's what I really look for.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that opportunity and offer, man. I'm gonna definitely take that into mind when I'm
I love it.
launching businesses, man. I'm gonna be honest, man. Like, I'm as an entrepreneur myself, I'm definitely I experience a lot of failures, and I
Yeah.
don't take it personal. It's the nature of the business. But I want to share one with you that and I'm curious to just hear your thoughts. But because basically one of the questions I have is about client delivery process, and you mentioned that opportunity with just providing so much with getting able to get them on podcasts, and that all sounds great and valuable. But for me, I don't want to be the person who can just make a bunch of offers and actually not deliver on that promise. And so the reason why I'm saying that is because I'm a pharmacist, right?
Yep.
And I've had the pleasure of working from home, and now I've done it for myself. I've gotten so many work from home jobs. I'm like, okay, let me help other pharmacists get
Mhm.
remote jobs.
I love
Now, pretty much that's the business I started.
it. Yep.
And the marketing of it is actually not that hard. I
For sure.
actually, and that's actually, to be honest, something that I was worried about because marketing has always been the hardest part for me. The delivery process of actually getting them a remote job has been the hard part. And so I hypothetically could just get a bunch of clients because everyone wants remote jobs, but
Yep.
I don't want to. I slowed down and stopped doing that because I don't want to make promises that I can't fulfill, so I'm curious, have you had that problem before, and if so, how do you deal with like that client delivery process?
You're one of the good ones. I'll say that, man.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people like when you have a good offer, you have a great offer. Because when
Yeah.
marketing is easy, it means you have a good offer because people
Yes.
want it and you have something that's super unique. A lot of people wouldn't have that, um, angel on their shoulder saying like, "Hey, I really got to tone this back."
Yes.
And I totally I'm right there with you. And we've definitely had that happen where we got into it as like, hey, let's do, a good one is ads for solar companies. And it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And we had to move on and just be like, hey, that's not an industry we don't work with.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that happens. And unfortunately, not everybody does that. That's what makes it harder for us to sell the good ones, able to sell because it's
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
bad ones taking money
Yeah.
and trying to perform. But it just happens. And I think my best recommendation on, if that happens is
Yeah.
either figure it out and just really, make it happen or
Yeah.
switch quickly and
That's
maybe tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the latter part is probably what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of switching or like tweaking or honestly even just trying something different because actually getting them a job is a lot easier said than done. But I've one thing I've realized, because one thing for me is for every failure or whatever experience I have on a business, I just get better and better. Like, I'm gonna be honest, before I did this podcast and before I did this and that business, I've never identified as a salesperson. But now I'm actually selling people and
I love
getting
it.
cash. And now hypothetically, I have defeated the battle of sales. Like, I'm not scared to sell people anymore. But I don't want to be that person. I've kind of realized, like, hypothetically, and I do think a lot of business do this, you can sell someone and not actually fulfill on the client and keep on doing that and make money. I that's the last person I ever want to be. But I know if you can do that.
Absolutely.
Like, and I'm sure you're laughing because you know what I'm talking
I
about.
know
You could
exactly what
do
you're
that.
talking
And I
about.
don't
We
want
definitely,
I'm like, I've realized, holy shit, like I'm kind of getting money doing this consistently, but I'm actually not like getting them the job, and I don't feel comfortable doing it enough. But you know what I'm saying. So my question to you is like, with that, like, how do you So how do you actually deliver the service? Because I mean, like I'm guessing, and that question becomes, I would imagine you building some type of team, because with
Yes.
a great offer means something that takes time to do. You know what I'm saying? And I'm obviously you're not doing all that. So how are you getting this all done? You know, when you make offers, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll tell you how we deliver on something we know works and how we deliver on something that doesn't work. So if we know it works, we have our team, we SOP it out, we put it all on paper, all the instructions, and then we take what works and we give it to everybody and we just customize it. But that is one thing too, recommendation is a lot of times customers will want to change everything up. And if
Yeah.
I know something works, I'm not changing a lot of it up
Yeah.
because you're going to change too much up and it's not going to work. And then you're going to blame us for not
Yeah.
knowing what we're doing. So that
Yeah.
is one thing that I will say is definitely an issue to delivery. But, a lot of times if we don't know something works, or even, how we started in real estate when we didn't know if something worked, we'll do a lot of free trials. We'll try to find an expert. Again, how we scaled from real estate into insurance is we went and found somebody that was an expert in insurance marketing, and we paid them and we said, hey, can you sit down with us for 4 hours and teach us everything show us what's working, what's not working, and give us something that we can actually start to do some trials with our customers. And
Mm.
then we'll transition into a trial period where we take on 10, 20, 30 clients. And we'll say, hey, can
Mm.
we do this marketing for you? Can we, try to get you some leads? We're not going to charge you. If it works, you can pay
Mm.
us. But we're going to prove this. And then we're going to
Mm.
prove it. And then after we have, it's like, okay, we've done this 20 times. We know
Smart.
this
Yeah.
works. Then we go and charge for it. But
And yeah, I
I think
love
a lot
that.
of people skip that.
I love that, man, and I like that honesty, because I think that's honestly probably something I want to start doing more. And so essentially, you're willing to provide the service for free to prove that it can work in order to start charging more. And I think, for me, that's something that I have to learn to do too. Is that something that you've been working on? Like, when you start a business, like, you don't have a problem offering a service, even if it costs thousands of dollars, for free, to see if it works. Is that kind of something you always do when you launch a business, or not, or it
Um,
depends?
it depends. So, we're at the point now where we'll pay for proven stuff, right? So
Oh,
like,
okay.
or so I'll pay somebody and they'll tell us like, okay, this works.
Okay.
We'll still test it out, but as an example with the SEO company,
Okay.
we had a fulfillment partner that all they do is the SEO. They know it works. They have this whole track record. So it's like I feel comfortable enough. I've vetted them to
Yeah.
know that I can get this result. So I'm going to sell, hey, we're going to get you this result and I'm going to take your money up front because I'm comfortable with it.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
if I'm not comfortable with the process, there's a lot of different ways. Again, sometimes that's, why you would put a guarantee on it. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
you don't use it's kind of like a lot of times you use a guarantee to sell, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like a guarantee for yourself that like, hey, if I don't get you this, like I don't deserve your money, so you're going to get it back. Another thing that we've done in businesses is we'll say, hey, we're going to take you on. Don't pay me anything right now. We're going to get you this result, and then you're going to start paying us. So that's another way to, instead of just doing free work,
Yeah.
you can start working with them, build a relationship, and then it's like, hey, once leads are coming in, then just start paying us. But you don't have to pay us right now because we're
Gotcha.
going to build it out. We're going to start testing, and then it works. Then you're going to pay us, and we're going to work together.
Gotcha. So, when you're building these multi-million-dollar businesses, Jake, are you doing all of this are you managing all these businesses at once, or are you doing it one at a time? How are you managing your time? Because I know that's important.
Yeah, man. It's that's the biggest struggle is,
Okay.
how do
Yeah.
I, do I spend 2 hours at this business today, 3 over here? And I only have, out of all my businesses, there's only one that I own 100% of. And
Okay.
it's my, coaching, education stuff that I do, but everything else I have a partner in, or
Mm.
multiple partners. In 5 of them, they're all kind of under one umbrella. And I have 2 other partners in that. So one of them takes care of sales, one of them handles operations, and then I handle the marketing and client acquisition side of things. So I've really like built, you have like teams inside of businesses, but
Sure.
then I have this overarching management team that goes in and works on the business. So it's like I'm almost a team at this point that goes in and, you know, has this business and we're doing X, Y, and Z. And, you
Yeah.
know, this business, we take care of, you know, this. And so it's again, it's become bigger than just me being in the business. It's our
Yeah.
team being in the business, but obviously still, you know, there's specific things that only I can do. And you do have to really manage your time.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So that's interesting, man. So what does your day to day look like? Just run us through that so people can have an idea of like how people successful entrepreneurs are running their time.
Yeah.
I know it varies for everyone, but I'm curious. I'm generally curious.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this. I hate doing things twice. If I'm doing something, I will make it, and then somebody else is going to duplicate it and implement it into the other business.
Interesting.
I hate
Yeah.
doing things twice. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
my rule. So,
So
you know,
yeah, I'm
I'll wake up in
listening.
the morning. I do cardio. It's just something that I like to do. Start my day, 20,
Okay.
30 minutes, nothing absolutely crazy. And then I will get into work. And again, like I said, it's developing new things.
Mm.
I started telling people I'm a digital architect because I hate telling
Yeah.
people I own a business. So it's like I'm a digital architect. That sounds
Yeah.
cool, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm building. It's, you know, I'm making new ads. I'm building out a VSL. I'm recording YouTube. I'm recording training. So it's me doing these things that are super high leverage. And then from there, you know, it's like, okay, what's the
Mm.
feedback? Do we need to tweak anything? And then, you know, outside of that, it's, you know, go to the gym in the middle of the day, come back. I have a lot of meetings in the afternoon and, you know, just more work, more doing stuff, developing, building.
So okay, so you're exercising first thing in the morning. Then it sounds like the morning is your creative time to just
Yes,
like do all types of digital creation. Then you bash your time in the of meetings in the afternoon, right?
exactly.
That's
Yep.
actually that's interesting. I actually do something like that, but I don't
Love it.
exercise in the morning. I do it in the evening. But yeah, but I my creative work is in the morning. But it seems like that's so interesting that you say that, man. So that's essentially what you do, and essentially it sounds like the activities you're doing are very leveraged. And it sounds like to me that you mastered the art. Well, I don't want to say you mastered, but you've done a really good job of learning how to delegate tasks and just hire and create training videos. Do it once, give it out to someone else, and repeatedly hire people to buy back time and get a lot of things done, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
okay, so what does that process look like for you, boss, when you're delegating
Yeah.
and hiring people and whatnot? How do you hire the right people? Because that's something too that I've had my failures with, or I don't want to even call them failures, they're just learning experiences. I've hired a bunch of virtual assistants.
Yeah.
Some of them are trash, some of them are good. Like, and you keep the good ones and you leave the trash ones. I'm sure you had. I'm sure not all your employees have been great either. Like,
Yeah.
what does that process look like?
So I'll tell you a couple things. The first is my first hire is always going to be somebody that's not just a VA. Like
Okay.
I need to look at them as like, this is going to be my operations partner. And, you know, again, you could still maybe pay them $1,000 a month or part-time $500 a month. So it's not VA cost, but it's still somebody, you know, it's a little bit more, but you're paying for somebody that can actually like, you know, like handle the
Oh,
stuff, like handle the shit that I'm going to throw at them. Because
yeah, yeah.
the other thing too, with that is that first hire is I make sure that during the hiring process, I'm telling them straight up, hey, you're going to be doing a bunch of different stuff. You're going to need to
Yeah.
learn everything I know. I don't have any SOPs. I don't have any training.
Yeah.
You need to kind of roll with it. And then I do look for some basic skills, which is like funnel building, video editing. You know, basically, do you know how to use technology? Is
Yeah.
you know the biggest thing. And then, you know,
So
can you have a conversation? And at that point, if they're like, you know, I'm cool with it, I'll roll with it, hire them, and then treat that person like gold, because that's going to be the person that's going to train everybody else. You know,
mm,
again,
that's
I
interesting.
luckily I have one individual that's kind of my do it all. I give him my stuff. He can either go to other team members or he just does it, and he's a G. Like he just handles business. And then my other VA, that's more of like my executive assistant, she will actually go and hire people now. And she just writes up the description and then takes care of everything. And those two combined are really just like kind of take care of all of that delegation. And if somebody doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think that's another big thing too, is like that first hire is very important, but after
Yeah.
that, hire fast, fire fast, because like get them in, get them out. And
Interesting.
somebody will, you'll know right away, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If somebody's going to stick, they'll stick. They'll be very communicative. If not, they're going to just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
reply, and
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
isn't a good fit, and they'll find something else.
Yeah, I've always, yeah, when I hire someone, then if I'm messaging them on Teams and like it takes them like hours or days to respond, that's already, it's like, all right, I'm already questionable. I'm like, all right, you're probably not going to be a part of it. That's so interesting that you said that, man. And I'm just comparing what you're doing with what I'm doing. What I've been doing is not as high leverage as you, but I think it's interesting because I never looked at it there. I will hire a virtual assistant one by one, and I'm doing the hiring, so that's already some time.
Yep.
You are hiring an operation manager to do the hiring on your behalf so that you don't have to necessarily do the hiring. Or so that's what you're doing
Yeah,
essentially.
that's absolutely what I'm doing.
Cool.
That one individual will go and hire, any other role that we need, or they'll go on Upwork, they'll go on Fiverr, like, they'll hire different contractors or different skilled talent. So yeah, you have that one person, and that person needs to just be I mean, almost like a partner, because
Yeah.
they're going to go out and they're going to take care of everything else. Now there's some stuff that I will vet for, like if, a media buyer is an example, and they're running all of our Facebook ads and Google ads, like I need to talk to them, because like that's a specific skill that
Yeah.
we need. But everything else is either, again, it's going to go through them, or we're going to contract it out on Upwork or Fiverr.
That is so interesting, man, and that makes sense. Are you familiar with the entrepreneur Andrew Wilkinson?
Sounds
He's a
familiar.
he's
Very.
a he's a he was a billionaire. Now his net worth is probably like 750 because he has this whole philosophical thing about not making money anymore because he has enough. But anyways,
Sure.
he said something to me that like, and it sounds similar to you, that seems like it's changing the game, where when he talks about launching businesses, there was this concept of like, instead of hiring one person, you hire that one person to hire like 10 people on his
Yep.
behalf. And that's essentially what like really creates the leverage. And so I'm just curious, like in terms of like the operations and like the efficiency of everything happening, like you don't worry about that, or like, because you don't necessarily know who's being hired, so how do you deal with that,
Yeah. So it all is gonna, I guess if you look at the whole scope of things, you look at like, is the end result getting done? And then what are your clients saying? If your clients are happy and the end result's getting done, I don't care about the in between. I don't care if you were in jail for 5 years. We've hired felons. Like we've had salespeople that are felons, awesome team members. And it's the end result. That's all that matters. I don't care how you get there.
Yeah, because like you were saying, like when I hire someone too, like I always tell them, like I don't really care. I don't make it like a 9 to 5 thing or a job. I'm like, just get the job done and I'm good. I don't really care how you do it. You can
Yep.
be going on a bunch of dates. I don't care if it takes you 1 hour to do the job or 10 hours to do the job. Just get a job. And I like that mentality. So that's so interesting, man. So I'm curious, man, as on your entrepreneurial journey, there's a bunch of revelations. I don't know if you can relate. I'm still going through my revelations, and I'm constantly learning how to hire, how to sell, how to market. For you, what was like the biggest revelation you had, or like belief that changed the game for you?
I think it's hard to say, because I've been doing this for so
Yeah.
long. Like I've had to get comfortable talking to people. I'm not naturally, comfortable just like being on, camera or talking to people, being on Zooms. Like
Yeah.
that's not who I, was growing up. So I had to learn that. But the biggest revelation, I think, for me, just in my whole journey, and it's something I've actually learned recently that is probably why it's relevant, or, top of mind, is staying in the trenches. Because I got to this point where, for such a long time, you're at, this management level where you're just seeing things being done. You're, saying, hey, do this for the marketing. They do it. And you're just telling people like, do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And you really lose touch of like, what's actually working. And I'll give you an example. We have one agency, one company that it's the same one actually with the chiropractors I mentioned before. we were having some issues with it. Like, it just wasn't scaling. It was stuck at like $30,000 a month. Just, it's not, up to like, we're used to scaling and just, continuously growing, and it wasn't. So we actually invested in a mentorship program and a coaching program. And I tell you, I was humbled the first call we had with that person, because they were treating us like we were new. Again, I had my camera off. I didn't want them like seeing me. And they were showing us the system and how they run their company and what we need to do. And I was just like, damn, like, am I old? Because I felt like we were using and used to using Salesforce. And there's all these new tools and new stuff that you can be doing for your agency and new ways of doing things. So for me, it was like staying in the trenches has been the biggest like revelation over the last year. And again, even 6 months of like, for me to continue to grow and for me to actually have successful businesses. And the reason for the success that we've had is that I was building systems. I was sitting there on my computer. I was looking what works, what doesn't, how can we improve, and day over day over day, continuously improving, which you're not going to get out of an employee always, unless you have the money to just throw at somebody to like, look for stuff all day. So the biggest thing for me is staying in the trenches, building the business, let everybody else deal with, the clients, support, marketing, all that kind of stuff, and just continue to improve, whether it's, implementing voice AI for your customers or a new management system for your team. Continuously improve and look what's out there. That's been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've learned how to build systems that really run everything, and you're just constantly improving the system so that the workflow of everything is efficient.
Exactly. And on the backside of that, it's not, if you have a system that's working, and everybody says like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, the issue is it's going to eventually break, or something new is going to come out. And if you're not improving it, it's just going to become old.
Gotcha, man. It's so interesting, man. I mean, it's easier said than done because you have years, if not decades of experience. So for you, if someone tries to use this, an average listener tries to use your epiphany, it's probably not going to work with them because they don't have as much experience as you. And so, most of my listeners, I know, don't have that level of wealth or knowledge to you. And, we're, including me, we're trying to make it to probably 1,000 a month or 10,000 a month. If you're on a smaller business, how would you recommend starting that up to create a simple online business where someone can make 5,000 to 10,000 a month profit? What would you do, Jake?
Absolutely. So again, like you mentioned with sales, that's never been natural for me.
Same.
But what I do have is I'm an expert in, marketing. And even back in the day, like I started doing funnels and advertising for businesses. So my recommendation is get good at something, come up with, if you know what you do and you have a skill, great, try to build a business around it, and then go out and talk to people and see if they might be interested. If you don't have a skill, build a skill, learn how to do marketing, learn how to do ads, and then come up with some kind of an offer, some kind of a unique way of doing things. And then, like I said before, if you already have a skill, just go out and start talking to people and literally like ask them, hey, would you be interested in what I do? And start in your local community. You can build rapport. You can meet people for coffee, and maybe you go the free route. Say, hey, this is what I do. I'd love to do this for you for free. Be very transparent. Like, I'm not charging you anything. I want to get my first clients in the door. And then if it's working, let's absolutely, do this on a paid basis. And then people are going to say yes. If you talk to enough people, they're going to say yes.
For sure.
And then continuously do that. Talk to people, see what their feedback is. If they don't like your offer, change it up, try something else, tweak it a little bit, and then continuously talk to more people, get more no's because they're going to lead to yeses. And then from there, you can really start to scale and be like, okay, like my offer is great. I talked to 100 people, 20 of them sign up. Go get a salesperson because they're going to close 30 of those people instead of 20. And then, okay, like I have somebody selling. Now let's build out the back end and just piece by piece by piece, continue to grow. But it starts by literally having conversations, ask people if they want to talk. And then when you're talking to them, tell them what you do and see if they might be interested in working with you.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, I mean, in the way you break it down is very simple, but I think I love the simplicity of it. And obviously it's easier said than done for beginners, but it's definitely important, man. And it's a skill set I'm working on building myself. And I'm just curious, man, because for me, with that pharmacist business that I told you about, honestly, I'm thinking maybe like, if it doesn't keep working weeks from now, I'm just going to switch and try something else. And I'm looking to try to create an offer where I can charge at least $500 a month. And do it remotely and digitally. But I for me, what I've learned from this business I'm doing is I want to have something that I can deliver quickly and rather efficiently. What are some businesses that you've created where the lead generation part was, or whatever you were offering was relatively easy to deliver? Or yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think a really good thing to look at with that, because I talked about, go build a skill. You
yeah,
can actually just go find a white label partner. So going back to SEO, we found somebody that could actually do what we were offering. So it's like, hey,
uh,
we're going to sign this client up. I don't, we don't say like we have a white label,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
company, but it's like they're gonna just take care of everything.
yeah.
So I can run some ads, I can sell some people, and then hey, here's a client, take care of it, and they take care of it, and that's gonna be like super easy to just get started and get going.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it sounds like the way you look at business is there's like this client delivery and then there's sales, and you're the marketing and the sales guy, and you just hire someone to do the delivery or whatever the technical process of that business is.
Yeah, it's
That's right.
in the long run, that's not what you want. You definitely want to be delivering on the back end and know what you're doing. And it
Yeah,
depends what it is too. Like we have a LinkedIn ads agency that we do all in house because we know what we're doing. But if you're just starting out, and even how we started, we always had a fulfillment partner because it allowed us to actually focus on sales and advertising and marketing. And then after that, it's like, okay, like we'll bring it in house, or whatever we need to do. But it allows you to not only get to market and get out there and start selling faster, but if
yeah.
something doesn't work,
You can
okay,
switch.
no problem. Switch
The
it up.
switch. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that, boss, because yeah, literally what you're saying, boss, I'm literally at there. For me, I hired a bunch of virtual assistants to try to have them apply for pharmacist remote roles, and it's taking much longer than expected, and we're not
That's
getting
fair.
success. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to switch it up, and I
Yeah.
love that, man. So I mean, Jake, it's really been an honor to have you on, and learn so much business advice. For those who are trying to continue to level up and become a millionaire, what would you say is the first initial step? Where would you undertake them? Would you say, hey, go watch this YouTube channel, hey, go read this book, like, or hey, go to, what would you say? What would you tell your younger self, Jake?
Absolutely. So I would say just get out there. And one book I recommend is The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, because it gets you in that mindset of what it's actually like to own a business. He talks a lot about just launch the business and then worry about fulfilling after.
Yeah,
But the other thing too, I would really, focus on sales, focus on marketing, and put on your blinders, because when you start getting in this realm, you're going to get hit with ads, and people are going to be promising you that they can make you $1 million and you don't have to even do anything.
yeah,
I promise you, I've made so many investments into those done for you businesses. They don't work out. The only business, or the only results that are guaranteed are if it's a business that you control,
yeah.
and you're actually in it. So, just get out there, get selling, talk to people, come up with an offer, and put on your blinders and just focus. And you're going to learn more from doing than you are from watching
Watching,
anything out
watching.
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I love that you said that. It's pretty much saying just take action, expect to
Exactly.
fail, and continuously learn from that failure.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And I love that, and I appreciate that, man. So I'm curious, Jake. You're clearly, you have a lot of money, and that's great. What for you is the ultimate goal with all these businesses you're creating? Because it begs the question, like, why keep doing this? Like, if I don't know how much money you have in the bank. I would imagine it's a lot, man. Like, it's like, hey, what's stopping you from just chilling out, going to the beach, or like doing something else, or just, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
like, what keeps you going?
So I'll give you a couple of things. So the end goal with the businesses are to sell them, to
Oh,
exit.
okay.
So that's definitely, and we're actually going through one big one right now. Again, fingers crossed. We should be closing here in a couple of months, and that's kind of the end goal. Now, that if you asked me when we started, was that my end goal? No, my end goal was that we have a business that just goes forever.
Oh,
And
okay.
you realize very quickly. I talked about not being in the trenches. And
Yeah.
you learn very quickly there's no such thing as passive income.
Yep.
And if you're not in your business improving it, it's gonna shut down. So you
Yeah.
really start to realize, like, okay, like this is a lot of freaking work to have all these. So exiting is obviously top of mind. And
Yeah.
really the biggest thing for me, it sounds corny, but what actually gets me out of bed is I started putting together a university and a coaching program, and we've had some traction with it where I'm just teaching people. It's not high ticket.
Yeah.
It's super low ticket, super affordable. And that's been my passion project, where it's like, I'm going to start to just document everything that we know works. Everybody can access it. And it also helps me stay grounded, where it's like, okay, like this is what's working, this is what's not, and helps me improve my businesses as well. But that's been my passion project, because that's something that I will never sell it. I have my last name on it, and it's something that we'll just live on.
And I love it, man. Just like you have this passion project, I consider this podcast I have a passion project. I get to talk to like incredible people, man, and learn so much about myself and the world. And I feel like so many opportunities get presented to me. So I can definitely relate to that, man. And when you said there's no such thing as passive income, man, like I laugh because I know exactly what you're talking about, man. And I've always, like, all my life, like, I used to watch YouTube videos and read all these books expecting there's some secret way to make passive income. I started investing in real estate. I have like 3 properties, boss.
Beautiful.
And I got into it thinking like, oh, it's gonna be passive and I'm chilling. It's not. It's not passive at all, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? And every business I've created, I've tried to make it as passive as possible. And then if it's passive, it's probably not making that much money. And if it's active, you're probably making a lot of money. But there's like a balance of your time, and I'm sure you know that you live in it, so you understand what I'm saying. Yeah.
It might be passive for a couple months, but I'm telling you, it will break.
Yeah.
And it will not last. So.
Yeah. So I love it, man. Well, hey, Jake, I appreciate your time and thank you for coming on. For those who would like to connect with you and learn more about the work you do, or hey, I don't know, maybe work with you or just connect with you somehow,
sure.
How can they do that?
Yeah, just jakesetterlun.com or Optimize Jake on Instagram. Either one work. Definitely open. Either me or my team will get the message, and we can go from there. But yeah.
Well, you hear it, folks. That's how you can connect to Jake. And I want to thank you, Jake, for your time. And remember, everyone, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.